Welcome to another edition of Politics Uncensored, the product of Uganda Radio Network. Today we have Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma Kajura, a researcher, a journalist, many things. And we are going to talk about, of course, like the name suggests, politics and his understanding of what is happening, particularly as we head into the 2026 general election. Yusuf, welcome.
Thank you so much, Batte.
I saw you write about the hopelessness of what is happening. You called it a drama of
a circus.
A circus. First of all, why did you call it a circus?
Because it is a circus. The results of this election is predetermined. Nobody in this country doesn't know how the election is going to end. So it is against that I call it a circus, because we're going to go, it's a cycle. It's a circus. Circus is entertaining. It's entertaining. There's so much energy that comes with going to a circus. But at the end of the day, besides getting entertained, there's nothing more. So we know at the end of the election in 2026, after the swearing in, we'll have majority MPs belong to the NRM, and URN will still be president. That was the status quo before. That was the status quo before 2020. It was the status quo 2015. It was the status quo 2011. You can go as far back as you can imagine, as long as Mr. has been president. It is a circus that we constantly go back to after 5 years. So that's why I call it circus. But what I found pleasant in calling it a circus is that the 200 young people who showed up asking to be nominated, now the presidency means nothing. I don't think they mean what they're doing. I think they're trying to caricature the entire process. Somebody calls it a protest gesture. What we're going through is useless. So it is a circus to the end that also these young people have actually tried to display it as a circus. And most interestingly, some of the contenders, the aspirants, showed up in stilts, entertainment stilts. So basically, it's a circus. It's a protest. We go through the circus. So since it is a circus, they decided to show up in the spirit of a circus.
So, but when you read what you have written and what you have been writing before, someone will ask, so what do you think should be the best approach to tackling Museveni? Because sometimes you might come off as though you maybe you're even a supporter of Museveni, because if you the known avenues through which he can be challenged, you are calling it a circus. So how do we approach Museveni? How should people approach those who are against him?
I don't know what they should do, because Museveni, but I have an idea. Museveni goes to an electoral process not seeking victory. Museveni is not taking us through this round of electioneering because he wants to win an election. Museveni is seeking legitimacy. The idea that I am governing with the legitimacy of the people of Uganda. He's not seeking electoral victory. Now the problem for me is that most of those trying to oppose him go into this process seeking victory, or appearing to seek nothing beyond victory. So they know that everything begins and stops with victory. But if you stand against a man who is not seeking victory, you need to be aware that if we are to be serious, we need to also be looking at what he's looking at. Because what Museveni fears most about the electoral process, this is why he's become extremely violent over the past so many years, is because he knows if these people consider going beyond the election and say, if they say we're moving to Nakasero, we don't want this election, we're just moving to Nakasero this slowly this month. That's what Museveni fears most. If you take the Kawempe by-election as the example, Museveni did things that were even dangerous to the country. But if it meant beating news people and people of the opposition, he beat the entire electorate, which meant even those who belong to NRM were cheated by Museveni's actions, and he didn't care. Because for him, he cares more. What more can these people trying to seek electoral victory in Kawempe, what more can they do? Possibly, if there may be 10,000, they could say we are marching to Nakasero, which is 4 kilometers away. That would put Museveni in a situation where he has to kill 10 million people, which he doesn't want to do. So he knows what you have to do is to prevent the possibility that they think about gathering to upstage my presidency. So if they were serious, they'll be looking for more than victory at the polls. See, this is why I think it's a circus. Those who go into this electoral cycle also know we're not going to beat this man in this election, but they don't have an aspiration beyond seeking victory, which they know is a pretentious gesture. That's why I think it's a circus. I would suggest if they really want to appear serious, they need to look at those things that Museveni actually fears most. If they think about using this election as a platform to do much more than seeking electoral victory, then they are talking.
To take you a little bit, do you categorize the entire 200 also? Maybe there will be less eventually when electoral commission finishes all the process through which to nominate candidates. Maybe there will be less than what we are having. But be it as it may, do you categorize all the 200? Do you put them in the same basket? Are they the same?
All of them are the same, including you and so. All of them are the same. They are participating in the circus. All of them. The people who showed up in stills and were denied pick nomination forms are not different from you and Museveni who was allowed to pick nomination forms.
Why? Because Museveni is
because all of them are playing in a circus. It's like mutually agreed upon fakery. We've agreed to deceive ourselves that we're going to an electoral process where the winner at the polls becomes president. All of us know this game. So as long as Museveni still wants to stand, he can't be beaten at the polls. We know the last time somebody won a fair election must probably 2001. If you stretch it further, probably 2006. Beyond that, Museveni doesn't have in the basket theoretical or practical reasons to enable him to get victory. Theoretical or practical reasons. In political science, there's no argument for him, but even practically, there's no argument for him to continue as president after 2006. So Museveni standing himself is involved in a circus, a costly circus. Even those opposing this same man, they know we're going through a circus, and they are willing to plan on it.
And so, but someone will tell you, but the man contests, and genuinely there could be people who support him. So, what did you tell? Are you not trying to say that people who are actually voting for him, are you not trying to say that you are trying to undermine, to underestimate the people who vote for Museveni? Because the name surely has some supporters, doesn't it?
I don't disagree. But I don't think they win an election. I don't disagree. Museveni has supporters, of course. People eating directly from his hands. But they're not the majority. Museveni has people eating straight from his hands. Everybody around Museveni is there to eat. Maybe I should talk about the theoretical and practical reasons in political science that could give Museveni credence to win an election. After 20 years of an elected politician, the reasons 20 years ago that first took you into the office are all gone. The voters are new. You've become uglier and older. People have become tired of you. Your policies have been explored in 20 years. You are exhausted yourself. The voting base has changed. Practically, politically, you don't have the energy you exuded when you were, say, 20 years younger. Once these factors change, you're not appealing to a public to vote you into office. Whatever you can do, you're not appealing after 20 years to be voted into office. That is, at the theoretical level, there's no argument for you, policy-wise, voter base-wise. Your policies have been explored and exhausted. People know the extent of your creativity. The voting base has also changed. It's not the same anymore. The people that were 0 years are now voters. People who are 10, who are not voters, are now voters. People who are 20, which are learning politics, are now 40. They can't be continue voting the same man. It's not true that the country where you have elected politics, you don't have talent emerging in the wings. If the space was free and fair, people would emerge and be contesting for this position vigorously, and they'll mobilize and organize better. Because the grounds upon which you organized 20 years ago have shifted. There's social media as a tool of organization. There's Wi-Fi and internet and stuff like that. You can't have the same prowess and the same dexterity as the young people who have grown up in this era. They will beat you at just organizational levels, right? That's the theoretical position. But also at a very personal, practical position. Yourself, you have aged. You are tired. You look at our man, he's wobbling. You are not the same person you were 20 years ago. No, I am talking about 20 years. Now this man has been power for 40. Everything demographical, that's what I'm saying.
But you see, there are always exceptions to the rule. That is the theoretical and the practical. But there is always exceptions. There are always exceptions to the rules that you are
Give me the
exception.
exception.
Yeah. Perhaps because he's still around. You know, the fact that you are laying down the structure, I mean the theoretical and the practical, that all this, there are people who can defy them, and Museveni looks like he's one of those who has defied them. So can you understand, can you take to us, because if you tell me,
clarify.
Okay.
You missed something.
Yes.
I said to win a free and fair election.
Okay.
That's what I said. It doesn't mean you're not going to be winning elections.
Yeah.
But they will not be free and fair. To win a free and fair election.
What does it mean?
After
Can you
20 years,
break down this thing? Because we normally hear free and fair election. What does it mean for an election to be unfair, to be free and fair?
I mean, I think we're going to be splitting hairs about what it means to have a free and fair election. I think every thinking person knows what a free and fair election is. I wouldn't really want to spend so much time on breaking down the nitty-gritties of a free and fair election. Okay, that wouldn't be a thing I'll spend my time on. I would rather say, let's start the theoretical position that after 20 years in office, to contest and win in a space that is free and fair is impossible. It cannot happen after 20 years unless you are walking among the people. But if people have breath, even if they do nothing, the circumstances of that time, external forces, will tilt this balance into another direction. You know, you could give the example of Robert Mugabe. You could give the example of the Cameroonian man, Paul Biya. We're not talking free and fair. It doesn't mean you won't govern beyond 20 years. You will. It won't govern you. It means you can stay up to your death. It's not possible. Right? And I'm telling you, theoretically, after 1980, all the men who became prisoners of Africa stayed for this entire time. All the men who became prisoners after 1980, 1990 were either chased out by protesters, knocked out by an external force, or died in office. That's the only way you lose power. You don't, and it's the only way you keep it. You keep it violent, so you can only be violent.
Someone will ask, we see, for example, the NRM is going through processes of choosing leaders. And we are seeing the jostling for positions within the NRM. It is a mass, they call it a mass party, you know. They call it a mass party. And many people are, you know, because if someone has no, if the band on which he is not a winning one, perhaps humanly, they wouldn't be joining that organization. So why are there people still joining the movement which you are saying?
Let's keep the image of the
Yes.
circus.
Yes.
Circus are interesting things. Have you ever attended the circus? It's exciting to be there. It's not just exciting to watch, but if you have the chance to make money out of the circus, it's even more exciting. So circus, don't just stick on the imagery that just a circus because of the cyclic nature of the thing. But also circus are profitable and they are entertaining. That's what we're going through. People fight to get a space to hold their thing as part of the circus. You fight to get a stall to stage your show at a circus because it is profitable. Now, if you're friends with the man who owns the circus, even in bigger things, you see, so you gotta be friends with the man who owns the entire show, who owns the venue, who owns the rented places, who gives the stalls. You see, this is what is happening. Keep with the image of a circus. You'll see many things fit into the circus. It's sustaining, even for us watching. We pay to be in the circus, to enjoy it. So
but as you are enjoying, you know, as you are enjoying, even when you call it a circus, the man, like you say yourself, he's going to win again. So the circus continues. So even when it is a circus, like you are saying, nonetheless it continues in the leadership of the country.
Of course. Of course. It will come back the next week, the next 5 years.
So it is the circus that is winning. It's the circus that has been accepted, isn't it?
Yeah, the circus. I said it's mutually agreed that both of us have agreed to sort of deceive each other, to pretend. But maybe I need to sort of give you a bigger background. What we're dealing with in Uganda is that we didn't put that man in office. Neither can we remove him. That's the puzzle we have. We didn't put the man in office, we can't remove him either. That man was put in office by powers, not the men who fought, by other powers. So they're the ones who have the final word where he stays or not. Now us, other people in the opposition, at some point you realize you didn't put this man in office. You also realize you cannot take him out. But what do? You play along. What has happened is that we've all agreed to play along in this very lucrative circus, right? So we appear to be opposing, but we know it's just a circus. It's lucrative. You see, it's a lucrative circus, so we enjoy the circus as we play along. Because, there's there's a exhaustion of creativity. We're not creative anymore because we know our creativity is limited by the fact that we didn't put this man in office. But also remember, in the entire history of Uganda, we have never been able to remove the president on our own. All our past presidents have been removed by external forces. So Museveni can't be unique in this context because he was put in power by an external force. It is that force that has to remove him.
So in what if I want to understand you properly? So do you mean to say that? Can you take us through how else? Because you say if we didn't put him in power, so it so follows that we can't remove him.
No, okay.
So what are our options? What are the options? Are there options?
Of removing himself?
Yes.
No.
So what do we do? What should the people do? Do we give up or people should do hang their boots?
No, we did. We gave up already.
Have we?
We gave up a long time ago. We have comforted ourselves with waiting for time to take its course. Listen, if you look at the way we engage, right, we are waiting for that single moment of opportunity. May God do something about it. You see, if Museveni fell sick, you see how excited Uganda is. If you look at what we are doing, our strategies of removing Museveni out of power, all of those strategies can't stand practical scrutiny. They don't move. If our major strategy is joining this parliament, if our major strategy is standing against him in an election he organizes, we're joking. We're joking. The people who have tried to craft some newer options are people who have decided not to join the circus in the first place. People who are fighting on the outside of the circus. Because those have power to sort of destabilize it. I think that Museveni doesn't know how to deal with those who are outside of the circus. If there's any serious opposition in this country, it's the opposition that works outside of the circus. Once you aspire to join the election, once you aspire to join parliament, you have joined the circus. And the circus is very lucrative. Once you join the circus and you get a stall, you are in business as the beneficiary of the circus. The real opposition that really gives themselves a sleepless nights are people operating outside of the circus. You have to be out of the circus to appear like a serious threat. But you see, the man says the circus is coming in the next 5 years. You're like, we're going to play. We're going to play and take the ownership of the circus from you. No, you're playing in his game. Because he owns the taxpayer, the tax collector. He owns the one who collects fees from the circus players. So people operating outside, and I'm friendly with Ms. Serunkuma, and I think I'll credit Ms. Serunkuma, Agatha Tyree, the force they've tried to organize outside of the circus. Although the circus is constantly inviting them in. The circus is really inviting them. It's sending them strongly. Part of the ways the circus invites you is it forces you to form a civil society organization.
But you sound like you are appropriating a lot of power to Museveni. You sound like you're an invisible person.
Museveni is a worker. He's a worker in the circus. He could be the tax collector, but he doesn't have so much power. I'm telling you, a single phone call from Washington will keep Museveni out of power. We'll get Museveni out of power the next day. A single phone call from Washington will have Museveni leave. So Museveni is the head of the circus. He's the circus master who is in charge of who puts his stall where, who who collects the taxes, where taxes go, who is allowed to play in the circus. You see, but he doesn't own the thing. He doesn't own the land. He's the one who picks the rent, but he doesn't own the land. The owners of the land, if they said you were leaving next week, people will not stay a single night.
So people should be those against him, those who are gesturing to stand against him in an election. So they should be spending much of their time appealing to those powers you're saying who are responsible for Museveni being in power.
If they had the chance to, but I think the real revolution, now you've taken me into the territory of revolution. The real revolution is upstaging URN Museveni, who is a worker of those masters, and upstaging the masters themselves. Now, that's the story, that's the plight of the African continent. That's not for Ugandan actors alone, that's the entirety of the African continent. We have a challenge to deal with as the continent. So, the entire continent has many workers like Museveni. Paul Biya is a worker. You see, the continent has many workers like that. The men who are fighting the president of DRC Congo is a worker. The man before him was a worker. The people who are now fighting for power, especially Hemeti in Sudan, is a worker. So the continent has many workers of the masters. Now, upstream those men is a battle for the entire continent. So if you say, for the short term, you could appeal to the masters and say, hey, please do something about your marriage. You can appeal to them. But you need to position yourself that you do the something that the man is doing on their behalf. You have to position yourself in that manner. If you fail to do that, they will continue back in their man. You see, they will continue back in their man. So at that point, when you say, first in the short term, let me appeal to this man to kick this man out, and then later, I could try to fight this superstructure.
So where do we start? Because so simply a worker. Therefore, even if you remove him, you might get another worker. So the upstate, where does the upstate start from? Does it start from Museveni, or it starts from elsewhere? The superstructure you're talking about.
I think we'll start by getting another worker. It's a painful thing to say, but the man who replaced Museveni will do the same thing that Museveni has been doing, to some degree. Now, the difference that will be a new man. So there will be reservations, which the structure will allow him to execute. But the beginning part, if we are starting to transit from 17 years, we'll have to get somebody who has been doing the same things as URN Museveni, pleasing the owners of the land. Oh, by the way, and I don't make this up. You see, when people in Washington talk about resources on the African continent, they talk about them as our resources. This is Washington. This is like written down in their policy documents. When they're discussing internally, they talk about South Sudan, DRC Congo, Uganda, Iran as our resources. If you ask them, how about the people there? How about the people there who own the place? Those are our caretakers. Those things are ours. We can take them by hook or crook, whichever we want. So, and they have the guns and they have the power. So to upstage those people, you need to constantly change workers. You see, the biggest injustice Museveni has done to us is to be a worker who knows his dilemma but doesn't want to go away. He's a very selfish person. But if Museveni understood the dilemma he faces, he would have passed on that dilemma to somebody else to deal with it. Because the bosses at the top, they don't want violence too much. They have no problem to do violence, but they don't want too much of it. So if you move seamlessly, if you say, I am tired of working for you, have somebody else, they're okay with it. Now the new person will often do things afresh, trying to please the country, because the country is looking at you. Now in that process, the bosses also make adjustments, because they know there's a new man who wants to please his populace. And that new man will pass this to another new man, who will also make adjustments, because he has to please this population, to serve the bosses. You see, if in Museveni we had 3 other presidents, so Museveni had done 20 years, and we had another 10 years with another person, another 10 years with another person, the changes will be amazing. We'll never upstage this superstructure, but at least every new leadership would adjust to please the population, also to please the master. We adjust.
But when you talk like that, you somehow a little bit exonerate Museveni that these such a hopeless person there. He can't do much because the structure is so solid that it is hard to shake.
No, he's selfish. He's chosen to stay there. There's agents on his part. If Museveni was a nationalist, and what he does is you pass on the mantle to somebody else. So you've been properly exploited and corrupted by the superstructure. You exit.
So you think for me, for
No, I mean, the examples. That's what has happened in Ghana, for example. Ghana is fairly wealthier than Uganda, more advanced than Uganda. Many things are working. Our public infrastructure is collapsed. But the changes, it doesn't mean Ghana managed to upset this infrastructure. They did. But they've been changing. Who do you deal with? So you're dealing with Batte Lule today. After 10 years, Batte Lule leaves. Whatever internal behind door negotiations you had with him, you have to have those conversations with somebody else. And that somebody else might wish not to say yes to everything. And so the boss adjusts and they personally also adjust. And this is true in our colonial history because right now we're in a colonial moment. We're still a colonized continent. During the colonial period, when the colonizers came here, whatever they found here, they had to find a way of working with what they found. In every place they went to, they had to find ways of working with the men they found there. And so they had grand policies, but depending on the place they went to, they made adjustments depending on how the place was governed and who they were dealing with. You see, so there were protectorates and colonies, and then there were people like Ethiopia who resisted completely, right? You go to North Africa, they were all colonized, but they resisted completely. And the terms of colonization were different. So if Museveni had allowed this guy to know that he's incapacitated because he's been corrupted by the bosses, you don't stay forever.
So how? So it's a matter of how you are able to wriggle yourself through the structure and how you're able to deal with. But nonetheless, it is hard to completely do away with the structure.
So what civilized society? No, maybe not civilized. What nationalistic societies have tried to do is to understand that we can't do things the way we want. The structure is so powerful. If you try a complete break, they'll come so violent on you. So what they've decided to do is they keep changing who the structure engages with. They give you a new person every single day. After every 10 years, they give you a new person. And the new person will say, yes, you know, man, we came here, people want their banks to be operational. That's the campaign slogan I was running with. So there's no way I can come and say you still keep your banks. Okay, you can dominate the banks, but mine also have to work. You see, you know, I told my people that they're going to own their coffee again. So I can't overthrow UCDA. So there's a new man now who campaigned on the grounds of coffee. He will next and say, no, you're dominating your coffee is too much for my base. Because I campaigned on those terms. I need my people to have a stake. I understand you want to have a bigger stake, but I want my people also. So the colonizer was like, okay, is that what you want? Okay, they'll make adjustments. Now what Museveni has denied us is to have these changes in who negotiates with the superstructure. He has stuck there. And now once you're corrupted, they corrupt you endlessly. You become more vulnerable to them, that they continuously demand more. Now they are harassing him to take on the aliens. And he has nothing he can do because he has no pride left in him, because they're the bosses.